Good day, everybody. This is Kevin Hogan, author of 22 books, including The Psychology of Persuasion. Those books have been translated into 41 languages all around the world. Today, the 21 factors of success. Grab pen and paper. It's going to be fun. The first factor of success, what is it? And by the way, should we talk about just what is success for a second? Isn't success accomplishing something that you really want and then maintaining it and holding it for a long period of time, perhaps the rest of your life? That's probably how I would define success. Success could be having a lot of really cool relationships that are awesome, that make you feel good inside. Success could be having a lot of money so that your family never has to worry about being taken care of in the future. There's a lot of different things that success can mean, but there are common threads, and in this series we're going to look at 21 common threads that connect all successful people. The very first thing that you want to do is to learn how to utilize the factor of projection. I know you were thinking I was going to talk about a positive mental attitude, weren't you? No, the projection factor. The projection factor means that you're going to look out into the future and you thought, oh, you know what, I want to have X amount of money by the time I'm this old, so I can take care of my family, so we have lots of money to live on, so we don't have to worry about stuff, so every day goes along a little bit easier and a little bit better for us. Okay, great. So that's what you want, okay? And knowing what you want is a really important thing. And now that we've written down what you want, we've spent enough time there. Everybody always spends a lot of time writing stuff about this, but that's not really what you do. Successful people don't think about where they're going. They think, okay, that's where they're at. And so what they think about is, what obstacles did I overcome on the road to that? In other words, looking from a retrospective position, looking back, it's like, oh, you know, and what stories would you tell? And basically you want to develop 3 storylines of implementing your outcome. Okay, so in other words, I want to have $1 million by the time in 20 years or 15 years or in 10 years or 5 years or whatever dollar figure it is or whatever you want. Okay, so now how are you going to go about getting that? You can look at that from a projective standpoint or a retrospective standpoint, and you can say, what did I do to go get it? So what you do is you have a story, right? So you're going to play out a story. And we've talked a lot about stories here on Kevin Hogan channel. And stories, as you know, are really important to how we think and to what we do and to everything in life. Well, here's the thing. Your brain learns from stories. There's only 2 ways your brain learns anything: fluid concepts and metaphors or stories. That's it. And we tend to gravitate and remember stories, and we tend to implement them. But here's the thing. At the very end of Star Wars, at the very last scene in the movie, just think about this. What happens? You have Han. I actually remember this because I watched Star Wars. But you got Han and Chewie and Luke, and they're all getting their medals from Princess Leia. Okay, great. That's where we want to go. I want a medal from Princess Leia. But here's the thing. That's not the story. And just imagining that endpoint is going to get us absolutely nothing. So there's no success involved in getting that medal. The success of our life is the story of our life as we go forward. I want you to play out the stories of what it's going to take and what you're going to experience on the way to getting those medals from Princess Leia. So what kinds of things are going to happen? Here's the thing. All kinds of bad stuff. All kinds of challenging things, and some pretty cool things too along the way too. You're going to meet some neat people. You're going to run into some difficult people. You're going to have all kinds of challenges that are going to be fascinating. Some will drive you nuts. Some are going to be exciting. Some are going to be overwhelmingly difficult. And that is life, whether or not you're going to be successful or not. So you might as well go for the big medal. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to play out the stories. We're always going to assume that everything takes longer than we anticipate. That's the very first rule. Why? Because if it takes us a long time to fight off the empire, okay, we're not going to quit halfway through and go, you know what, this has been a year since, I think we should just call it now, you know. If they would have stopped World War II at the end of the first year, things would have been pretty glum. So you go until it's done. You go until it's done, and you don't stop until it's done. Now, what kinds of things are going to happen on the way to defeating the empire, to winning the medal, to actually saving the universe? What's going to happen on the way there? Well, you're going to have a lot of predictable, unrelated problems that are going to take you off track from what you want in life. What are some of those things? Well, you could have the health of a loved one go downhill. In other words, somebody that you care about could get sick. And it might not be just for a day. It could be 2 days or 3 days or 7 days or 17 days or for a year or two. What are you going to do? You could have somebody that's going to assisted living and you might have to take care of them. What are you going to do with that? How does that derail your life? How does it change it? Here's the deal. Just assume those things are going to happen and put them out on your storyline so whatever it is you want in life, you aren't freaked out when you get to the really challenging issue. When you get to the challenging issue, you knew stuff like this was going to happen. You prepared for it. So what did you prepare? The economy is going to go down too, by the way, right? The economy is going to go down. The market, as I record this, is at 17,000. That's pretty good. Hope you sold today. Yeah, 17,000 is great. We're at the top. We're at the peak. Could it go to 20? Sure, I suppose it could. But I think we would all assume that the market would go down from here. And if that's going to happen, that means some people are going to be spending less money than they did before. Wow, that's pretty important too. So how might that impact you? How might your own health impact you? What if you got sick? If you got the flu today or you got a cold, would you not work on having a successful life? Would you work on having a failure for a life instead? Say, you know what, Mom? I'm sick today. I'm not going to try to be successful. I'm going to try to be a failure today because I'm sick. Doesn't make any sense, does it, right? So we're always going to work on that. We're always going to know that your health is going to have great days and not so great days, and it has no impact whatsoever on what's going to happen in your life. Next up, there's unexpected difficulties wherever you live. You live somewhere. You have a house or an apartment, condo, townhouse, something. Plumbing goes wrong. You know, there's leaks in the house somewhere, or the electric goes off today, so we can't record the video for you today. What do we do then? Well, what then? We would plan to make other videos too. We'd create some new ones, you know, like develop the ideas and the concepts, and then we record them tomorrow, or when the electricity comes back on. What if the heat goes off today? Heat goes off today? Well, today in July wouldn't really make any difference, but if it was January, we're going to have to move over to the hotel for a couple of days, right? And so you just plan for things like that. You just know they're on your storylines that you're developing out for your life, okay? What about disagreements with loved ones? That's probably the biggest single difficulty that has nothing to do with leading your successful life, but there's going to be people in your family. It could be your spouse, or it could be your kids, it could be your parents, could be uncles, aunts, friends, buddies. It could be anybody, but you could have difficulties, and there's nothing like emotional disagreements and problems with other people when you're dealing with their challenges, and then you have to solve them, because now you're taken away from your success track, and all of a sudden you have to deal with other people's issues. And after all, you want to do that, right? Because if you didn't do that, would you really have a successful life? You'd have a very one-dimensional life if you didn't do the good things that you are required for other people and for the relationships that are involved. And we'll talk more about that later on. Then there's predictable related problems that you're going to put on your storylines. There's stuff like obstacles that are going to come up during the search for the outcome, during the way to defeat the empire, during the way to get what you want in life. There's stuff that's business related or success related. In other words, today I'm going to record a video. Well, the video, maybe the sound won't work on the video, or maybe the sound's going to have to be adjusted in the editing, or maybe the picture's going to look a little off, or maybe my hair wasn't quite right, or maybe the coat, you know, maybe something was sticking out in the wrong place, or something wasn't zipped. All of those things happen, and so you have to go back and correct them, right? Those are all predictable related problems to our success story, okay? Now, quick example of a success story. Back in 1990, that's a long time ago, I started writing The Psychology of Persuasion. And you might know that this is the 18th birthday of The Psychology of Persuasion. But in 1990, that was 24 years ago. What happened? What in that 24, that's a 6-year gestation period, right? So in 1990, I wrote The Psychology of Persuasion, but I had been in business for a while. I'd worked for people, I had my own small business, and I knew one thing for sure, that just because you have a product to sell doesn't mean anybody's going to buy it. And so I knew that I was going to have to create a storyline for the book. That means once the book is here, you got to go sell it. Somebody's going to have to buy it. And so, just skipping past the famous story of the 247 rejections of the book itself, let's just go fast forward to 1995 when the book is, or 1994 when the book is bought by Pelican Publishing. The book is now going to be published. Cool. And let's skip past all that because there's some good stories there too. But none of that has anything to do with the success of Kevin Hogan's future. What has to do with the success of Kevin Hogan's future is the promotion and the effort that's going to be required now going forward. Okay, now going forward. So what are we going to do? We have to plan. We have to create storylines. We're going to do an interview. How many interviews are you going to do every day? You're going to do 3 interviews every day. What if Boise, Idaho calls? Exciting. What if the little town that's 17 miles north of Boise, Idaho that has 312 people? I can't remember the name of it, but I did the radio station, and I did it one day, and it had a 500-watt station, I think it was, which is like less electricity than this in my entire house. But you do it, and you do all the radio interviews, and you do all the TV interviews, you do the magazine interviews, and if they're not coming every single day, you go get them, and we got them. I went and I signed up to do book signings with my publicist for all of those things. Why? Because you know that this is going to be required. You're going to have to create momentum, and the only way to create momentum is by doing enough blocks of success-based work and putting aside things that would not have been helpful on the success story track, right? So we're going to do book signings. We're going to feature the book at all of the courses that I teach for adult education. That's all going to be there. And eventually, yes, either momentum is going to happen to you or you're going to get a break. And for me, both happened. I got a break. And you know that story, but I'll save it for you for later on in this series, and I'll share it with you from a slightly different vantage point. But momentum is critical, and we'll talk about that in the next video. But remember, for today, projection factor is developing 3 storylines, 1, 2, 3, that have the most likely difficulties and scenarios. You should review this probably once or twice a month, just so you remember that it's going to be difficult. There's going to be predictable problems that are both related and unrelated to your track, to where you're going in life. And you're going to find out that it's all going to make a lot more sense when you've planned for those things to happen in advance, or just known that they're going to happen. And by the way, not every single problem in the world is going to happen, and you will get a few surprises along the way. And the people who are prepared for those surprises are the ones that are going to ultimately be truly successful. Okay guys, I will see you right here on the next video.